Okay, American-born Chinese is the first graphic novel.
Hey guys.
American-born Chinese is the first graphic novel to win the Pritzker Award for Excellence in Young Adult Literature. It was also a finalist for the National Book Award. Another first for graphic novel. Did you find the graphic novel format to be an effective way of Gene Yang to tell his story? Why or why not? What did you like or what did you dislike? Was it easier to understand the traditional novel or more difficult? Explain inside examples.
I thought it was, it kind of helped my learning with it because with like all of the facial like expressions, I feel like that helped understand what the characters were feeling. So I think that helped me kind of understand what they thought more.
I also think it helped because like I think it gets like some of like the points across better. Like page 48, you can it's like when Chinky just like walks into like when they first see him, you can like get like that same full effect if it was just words.
I agree with Connor. I said yeah on the pages 48 through 49 when the first time Chinky was introduced in the book. There's really no way to almost describe that stereotype in kind of just words. Rather when they show him walking in with kind of the Chinese to-go boxes as his luggage and just kind of describe all the stereotypes to go with it.
Yeah, I had that same page, but I talked about, for my example, panel 1 when Chinky came to America. Oh wait, maybe it was the same, never mind. He came to America dressed a lot differently than like his American cousins, and he was very loud, obnoxious, and like couldn't pronounce words correctly, so I think that they were trying to like enhance the stereotype by making him stand out a lot more than like all of like his like American cousins by like for example making him a lot more cartoon looking and like with his yellow skin and like his eyes that were like just lines and his like buck teeth and everything.
I had the same page as well. I thought it was effective, but like how they broke up all the stories but then brought them back together. But I thought there was like similar themes like discrimination, like on page 48, like mostly everyone said was like it showed Chinky and like it was like really just discriminatory how like they addressed how she spoke and like what she looked like. Then also on page 15, which is like a different part of the story, the Monkey King. It's like how he wasn't allowed to the party because he doesn't have shoes, but the real reason was because he's a monkey.
I thought that it was also like an effective way to tell the story because like there were some pictures that had like really powerful messages that I think like would have been hard to like depict through words and like it wouldn't have like come across the same way. So I had the same example everyone else used, but then I also had on page 152 and 153 it's Chinky and Jin and they're like fighting and like you really have to like look at the pictures and study them to see like what's happening in the story. But I thought it was like kind of harder to understand than a normal novel because like some of them didn't have words, so you had to like infer what was going on.
I kind of like understood more like what the meaning behind stuff was when like the monkey turned into the Monkey King turned into the great sage of equal to heaven, and so like but it's not like just those names like show how like the humanization of him when you kind of see him standing up straight and taller and having more and shoes on and more humanistic features, you kind of can tell what the meaning is, you know.
I agree with everyone. I feel like it being a graphic novel helped just like have like a mental image of what's going on. I could like see each page and see like what the characters are actually feeling, feel like their like facial expressions and body language. And like on page 24 when we were introduced to Jin Wang, like he was moving from like his old place to the new house, I feel like it made us like better understand each character's scene, their like facial expressions, like what they were going through. And I think it like made the like book more lighthearted and like because it was talking about stereotypes, but the fact that it was more of a comic book kind of helped it like not be so intense.
Yeah, I definitely agree, especially like page 194 through like 198 when Jin Wang turns into Danny. Like even with the story, or like the pictures, it was hard for me to understand, and I can't even imagine what would have been like without having those pictures. Just see that transformation and then like figure out what happened. So I think that part really helps. But I think at times, like Natasha said, it can be hard to sort of infer like what the picture means because I mean like it's really up to your imagination, and our imaginations and our minds are definitely not the same as Gene Yang. So it's just sort of different. What we infer. What we infer is different from maybe what he meant with the picture.
I agree with Ben. I thought this was a good way to tell the story because as a visual learner, the pictures made it easier to understand. For example, from page 212 to 237, the pictures pictures helped me like understand how they could be two possible people being the same people.
It asks like what do you like and what you don't like. What I kind of don't like is how like with books you can fit all your information in and be really detailed with words, but then it's like with the graphic novel it seemed like they tried to fit too much information with limited panels. So it was like there's too many speech bubbles eventually, like later on, because when they tried to reveal everybody, which characters who, and you know, like especially like when he had his cousin's head off, and then all of a sudden it was another character from the other chapters. So it's just like it seems like they tried to cram a lot of information in.
I'm kind of gonna disagree with you there. Kind of personally for me, I guess it's kind of back to the first thing. I like the way it was written because with the pictures, it's almost like you don't actually need to have as many speech bubbles in there or even talk about as much, because as the reader we can see what is happening from panel to panel, and I think everyone's minds obviously work differently, but we're kind of seeing the exact same things what's going on, so it's actually kind of nice that they're not cramming as much words into stuff like that.
Well, I agree with like Ryan and Tommy in that sense. Like, I think if you just like read like he punched his head off and then he became another person, you'd be just really confused. So like pictures made it easier.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with the last two people, Ryan and Connor. I mean, it'd be really hard just to understand what he's talking about if it was only words, like talking about how they're fighting and then how suddenly a monkey shows up. Like, if that was like just like in writing, I'd be, what the heck is going on? It was much easier to see with the pictures. I mean, I can still understand like how you can get confused or chronologically like what's going on with the speech bubbles and the sound effects, but I think generally it helped the flow of the book.
Yeah, I don't think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Thanks. I definitely agree with that. I like page 170 and 171. You get to see like that's when Jen's like putting his arm around Amelia, and I just like that because it shows his face expressions and like how nervous he is. And then like on page 171, he gets really excited to like have his arm around her. So that's what I like about the book, is that you can like see the pages and stuff. I mean, see the people and how they're reacting to certain situations. But like there was quite a few examples of this one, but I just chose page 111, panel 3, 4, and 6. I just didn't like the ha 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 stuff at the bottom. It just kind of like confused me, and I just didn't understand if it was like the background or if it was kind of telling us like, oh, we should laugh at that scenario. So, yeah.
Kind of going along with that too, I think in some cases the pictures kind of distracted me from what like the characters were actually saying. So I think that was something that I didn't really like. Just like in scenes when like the Monkey King was fighting with someone or like anything like that, it just like distracted me from the actual plot of the story. So it was like kind of hard to follow for me, but I don't know. I'm glad that they showed this like story in a graphic way.
I agree with Daria. So when I read, I kind of like imagine what's happening in my head, like kind of like paint a picture, and like having pictures there on the page kind of helps you like see what's happening. If like you don't understand what the text is saying, you can look at a picture and like see like what's happening in it, so it'll be like a clarifying kind of.
I have a question. Did you guys like how the story went from like the different peoples, like from the Monkey King to Jin to like Danny, or was that confusing?
At first, I didn't like it because I like didn't really understand like, because they were all so separate, and so I didn't really get like why they were all together in like one book. But then like as the story went on, I kind of like saw similarities in them and like how they connected, and then by the end of the book I ended up really liking how they all tied together.
To be honest, like when I was reading it was like it made sense, but at the same time, like if you were to have like a book and you were reading it, you could like tell who each single character is on its own, because you can explain a lot more writing. But then with the graphic novel, it was like the person that like Jen or whatever liked, the person that she was talking to as a friend looked just like another character who had Shen Ki as his cousin. So it just like kind of confused me, because I'm like, what the heck are these like the same characters? Which you could definitely like kind of see like a little bit of difference in their hair color, but other than that, like it's kind of confusing.
Well, I thought from like the start of the book, I thought it was just gonna be like 3 separate stories, but I liked how they like tied in and like were all like kind of the same story in the end of it.
So this book won the like young adult literature thing. Do you guys think that this book did a good job of showing stereotyping like in a real world situation? I mean, obviously not one thing, but like just like in general, like
Yeah,
do
it
you
shows.
guys find yourself like relating to like the stereotypes that you see in this book?
It was just
Like, I
really
think-
extreme.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Wait.
Yeah, it was just like really extreme and like over the top of what it normally is.
You got the point across.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely extreme. Do you guys think it was extreme?
Yes.
I definitely do, because I think I'm just trying to find the page right now, but it's that it's like the scenes. It's like 118, 119, 116, 117. It's when Chinky's doing like answering all the questions, and literally it's just showing how that sort of smart Asian stereotype. I think it did a really good job of highlighting those, but it just sort of went over the top. And I think that, but that sort of did help with bringing more light to the sort of seriousness and how prevalent those stereotypes are in our society.
Well, I think they obviously went over the top with like the whole character of Chinky. Like no one actually has like takeout bags as their luggage, and like no one actually looks like what Chinky looks like. So
And eating cats and stuff.
it was a dog.
It was a cat.
I kind of have a question for you guys to like kind of infer. Would you guys think that maybe that was the point of the author
Yeah.
to make it over exaggerated? I don't know. I'm just. Yeah, I guess like that 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
I mean, answering your question, I kind of say yeah. To make it like, I feel like you wanted to make it funny, but also wanted to show you how they could be hurtful and stuff. So I think in a way it was extreme, but in a way it was more like, well, this is like what's going on. You know, this is how people get judged and stuff, but maybe like just not as hard, but just to show you that this does happen. And like,
Well, I think with like the monkey, or not the Monkey King, Chinky was supposed to be like over the top, but then with Jing Wang it was supposed to be more realistic than like the other story.
Anyone
else?
last thoughts?
Okay, so I have like a minute and a half left, so if you guys are done, we can stop it here.
Yeah.
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 Just move on.
Cool.